Hi everyone, and welcome back. In today's video, we're going to practice English speaking together using the shadowing technique. Shadowing is one of the most effective ways to improve your English speaking skills. By listening and repeating at the same time, you can develop more natural pronunciation, better rhythm, and greater speaking confidence. With regular practice, shadowing can also help you improve your listening skills and speak more fluently in everyday conversations. Before we begin, let's quickly talk about shadowing. Shadowing is a powerful language learning technique where you listen to a native speaker and repeat what you hear immediately at the same time as the speaker, without pausing the audio. Don't worry if you miss some words or can't keep up perfectly at first. That's completely normal. The goal is to copy the speaker's pronunciation, rhythm, intonation, and connected speech as closely as possible. Try to speak continuously. Keep your voice active and focus on following the flow of English rather than understanding every single word. Now, put on your headphones if you have them, and let's get started. My first solo trip. For a long time, I dreamed about traveling alone. Whenever I watched travel videos online, I felt excited. I saw people exploring new cities, trying local food, and having adventures on their own. It looked fun, interesting, and a little scary. I wanted to do it too. The problem was that I was always nervous. I worried about getting lost. I worried about missing a flight. I worried about making mistakes. Sometimes I even worried about simple things, like ordering food or asking for directions in an unfamiliar place. Because of those fears, I kept postponing the idea. Every year, I told myself the same thing. Maybe next year. Maybe when I have more money. Maybe when I have more experience. Maybe when I feel more confident. But one day, I realized something important. If I kept waiting until I felt completely ready, I might never go. So I decided to stop waiting. I opened my laptop and started looking at different destinations. I wanted my first solo trip to be simple. I didn't want to fly across the world. I wanted somewhere safe, interesting, and easy to explore. After a few days of research, I found the perfect place. It was a beautiful city only a short flight from my hometown. The city had parks, museums, markets, and great food. It seemed like the ideal destination for a first solo adventure. Without thinking too much, I booked the flight. As soon as I received the confirmation email, I felt a mix of excitement and fear. Part of me wanted to celebrate. Another part wanted to cancel everything immediately. Over the next few weeks, I prepared for the trip. I made packing lists. I watched videos about the city. I downloaded maps to my phone. I searched for restaurants and attractions. I planned almost every detail. The closer the trip got, the more nervous I became. A few days before my departure, I started asking myself difficult questions. What if something goes wrong? What if I feel lonely? What if I don't enjoy it? But every time those thoughts appeared, I reminded myself why I wanted to travel alone. I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to become more independent. I wanted to prove that I could do something that scared me. Finally, the day arrived. Then I sat down and waited. As I looked around, I noticed families, couples, and groups of friends. Everyone seemed busy with their own plans. For a moment, I felt very alone. Then I noticed another traveler sitting by herself with a backpack and a book. She looked relaxed and confident. Seeing her made me feel better. Maybe traveling alone wasn't unusual after all. Soon, it was time to board the plane. I found my seat and fastened my seatbelt. As the plane took off, I watched my hometown disappear below the clouds. At that moment, my fears started to fade. I felt excited. For the first time, I wasn't thinking about problems. I was thinking about possibilities. A few hours later, I landed. The airport was larger than I expected. There were people everywhere. For a moment, I felt overwhelmed. Then I took a deep breath. One step at a time. I followed the signs, collected my luggage, and found the train station. Buying a ticket was easy. Finding the correct platform was easy. Even carrying my suitcase wasn't too difficult. Every small success made me feel more confident. Soon, I was sitting on a train heading toward the city center. As I looked through the window, everything felt new. The buildings looked different. The streets looked different. Even the atmosphere felt different. I loved it. When I arrived at my hotel, I checked in and received my room key. The room was small but comfortable. There was a bed, a desk, and a window overlooking a busy street. I dropped my suitcase on the floor and sat on the bed. Then I smiled. I had done it. I was alone in a new city. And everything was okay. A few minutes later, I realized I was hungry. Very hungry. So I left the hotel and started walking around. After a short search, I found a small cafe. I ordered a sandwich and a cup of coffee. At first, sitting alone felt strange. I wasn't used to it. But after a few minutes, I relaxed. I watched people walking outside. I listened to conversations. I enjoyed the atmosphere. nobody cared that I was eating alone. That realization felt surprisingly freeing. After lunch, I spent the afternoon exploring. I walked through beautiful parks. I visited local shops. I took photographs of interesting buildings. I wandered through streets without a plan. That was one of the best things about solo travel. I could do whatever I wanted. There was no schedule to follow, no group to keep up with, no need to compromise. I could simply enjoy the day at my own pace. Later that afternoon, I made my first mistake. I got lost. I was following a small street when I realized I had no idea where I was. At first, I panicked. Then, I laughed. Getting lost was one of the things I had worried about the most, and now it had happened. Yet it wasn't a disaster. I opened the map on my phone, checked my location, and found my way back. The problem was solved in less than 10 minutes. That experience taught me an important lesson. Sometimes we imagine problems that are much worse than reality. The things we fear often turn out to be manageable. That evening, I found a beautiful place to watch the sunset. The sky slowly turned orange, pink, and purple. People sat quietly on benches nearby. Some were talking. Some were taking photos. Others were simply enjoying the view. As I watched the sunset, I felt proud of myself. A few weeks earlier, I almost didn't take this trip. Fear nearly stopped me. But now I was standing in a beautiful city, creating memories I would never forget. Over the next few days, my confidence continued to grow. I visited museums. I explored local markets. I tried foods I had never eaten before. I spoke with shop owners, hotel staff, and other travelers. Each conversation became a little easier. Each day felt a little more comfortable. We shared travel stories and recommendations. Although we only spent a few hours together, it reminded me that traveling alone doesn't always mean being alone. Sometimes it creates opportunities to meet people you would never have met otherwise. Before I knew it, the final day arrived. I packed my suitcase and checked out of the hotel. This time, I felt completely different from the nervous person who had arrived a few days earlier. I felt stronger, more independent, more confident. When my plane finally took off, I looked out the window once again. But this time, I wasn't thinking about fear. I was thinking about my next adventure. My first solo trip taught me many things. It taught me that confidence grows through action. It taught me that mistakes are usually not the end of the world. And most importantly, it taught me that sometimes the best experiences begin when we step outside our comfort zone. Since then, I have taken other trips. But I will never forget my first one, because it wasn't just a journey to a new city. It was a journey toward becoming a more confident version of myself.